I'm Jo Wright, and this is the Coaching Culture podcast, where we discuss how to make work better. Hello, and today I am talking to somebody I am absolutely delighted to be having this conversation. I'm not going to share who it is just yet because I want to share how I actually first saw this person who I'm about to chat to today, and that's why I'm particularly excited. The lady I'm speaking to today is phenomenal, unbelievably formidable. And the first time I saw her, she was winning, the last award of the evening where you kind of got the big award of the evening that everybody aspires to have. Well, she was winning it. And it was on the stage at the LPI Awards back in February this year. And she was winning it for outstanding contribution and services to learning. And I just thought, wow, I need to absolutely meet this person. And by chance, not long after, we both shared a webinar together where we were on a panel to discuss culture and learning and development. And everything that she talked about absolutely spoke to everything that coaching culture is about and all the great things that we're trying to do in the workplace. This wonderful, formidable person was also saying the same thing. So I'm absolutely overjoyed to have the wonderful Dr. Satnam Sagoo on our podcast today. So welcome, Satnam.
Thank you, Jo. It's really great to be here.
I think our conversation could take us anywhere, as they always do. But I think it'd be first wonderful for our listeners to understand a little bit more about yourself and your story, because I know you've got a great history, background, and a wonderful story to share. So would you like to just share a little bit about who you are, what you do, but also kind of where you've come from to get here today?
Yeah, thanks, Jo. And I think as it's Friday and it's been a hot week, I've reflected a lot about things around the work around belonging that I'm quite interested in doing. And I guess I'll start with the things that are most relevant to me rather than just the work history.
Yeah.
So I'm a first generation born British Asian. And, I think that in itself is a really big diaspora of culture that comes with it. I always think I'm been really fortunate to have grown up with these really rich cultures of the Britishness around us, as well as my Indian heritage roots. And much of that journey is part of the work that I've done and how I kind of arrived into my career as well. I think it's just really nice to just sort of share a bit about yourselves about these things, that because it connects with people. My dad was an out and outright socialist, and my mum was the calming ear in me. But if I tell you anything, the one thing I grew up with was listening to I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. And I think that probably sets the tone of kind of some of the journey I've taken. So I think that was being blasted to me when I was about 2.
Brilliant.
So it's just to give your listeners a bit of a feel of who I am as a person. I have one son who's going to be 20 soon, married to someone I met at university. So it's been a long journey with everybody. And I started a career in science, in public health. So I was a public health consultant for a long time. Focusing on things like gastrointestinal disease, which doesn't sound like an LPI type of topic, but, there is rationale in it.
Yeah.
And at each of those points, I think in my career, I realized the impact that all of what we do have on people and our experience and our journey in that. And that relevance of, great leaders, great people in our lives. I think I had people who were my kind of mentors, my coaches. Before we talked about words like mentors and coaches, I always say my first kind of boss, if you want to use that term, or manager, was a great workforce developer, and he wouldn't have known that word, and would say, take half a day out, go and read a paper, tell me what you think about it.
Brilliant.
And at some point in that journey, I felt I missed that connection.
Yeah.
And I was thrown into what was called the Education and Training Committee, which probably anybody who's listening will know it's a bit of a, one that everybody gets thrown into. And that was my first kind of entry into the world of people and understanding why people wanted development and why people wanted to kind of progress and think about their careers and their journeys. But a big part of that journey really became about coaching. And a piece of work that I did was, I used to call it the reoffending learner. You know, you've all met them in organizations when someone comes to you, they've finished a master's, then they want to do a PhD, or they've finished one course and they're going on to another course. And you'd go, why don't you pause and reflect on what you've learned and take it back? And someone's asked me, are you a coach? I went, no, I'm not. I'm just curious of why you are not digesting your learning. And it kind of set my journey. It set my journey into the people arena. It set my journey into knowing why I want to be here. I had a mentor on the way. And I remember when I was looking at just pursuing that public health journey, it took about 4 sessions. So it never happens on the first session. It took about 4 sessions. And I went to my mentor, I'm actually quite good with people. And I think he just laughed. He just went, the eureka moment has happened. Thank you. I'm glad you realised this, that you're not destined to sit in a dark room and analyse data.
Brilliant.
And so there's a lot of markers in that conversation that led me on a journey to where I am now, having worked at Red Cross and Public Health England in my kind of roles as a workforce developer, as a OD and learning professional. And currently I'm an Associate Chief People Officer for Imperial NHS Trust. But it's been always my desire to work with people to recognise what motivates them, what really, you know, how do you bring the whole of you or the best of you to work where you spend so much of your time. You know, this morning, one of the things I did was I do a reflection. I do a 5-minute reflection on a Friday. And I do it about conversations that have had lasting impact on me.
Oh, wow.
And I actually just normally I don't, but today I dropped an email because they did have a lasting. I had 4 people who spoke to me for 5 minutes, from an hour meeting to 5 minutes, who actually just made me think and reflect. And if nothing else, they made me walk away from that conversation with a big smile on my face. They had a real amazing impact. And that reflection is such a key part of the work we do. And I really think that's part of my journey of wanting to support people in organizations really be the best they can be.
And do you do that every Friday then, Satnam? Do you do that reflection just for 5 minutes? Who has made an impact on me this week?
Yeah. So I just do it's like a 10-minute exercise, which I think I learned on the back of a Post-it note somewhere. Brilliant. On a yoga retreat. Who knows? It probably was a yoga retreat because that's one of my passions. Although I'm a fallen yogi at the moment, but that's a whole different conversation. But it was a moment to calm. I'm a talker. I struggle sometimes with listening. And it was a moment of how do you listen? And I just took it away. And it's 5 minutes on a Friday morning or whatever your end of the week is. Friday is my end of the week. And you just put down the positive impacts that people have had in conversations. And you can share it with them if you want. You can keep it to yourself. It's just a sort of a gratitude thing. But think of those conversations. Someone's made you smile. Someone's done something for you. And it's a nice way to just reaffirm in the work week, which can be sometimes overwhelming, that you've had real good touch points throughout the week.
Oh, so I absolutely love that. So I definitely understand the value of reflection and gratitude and all those great things. And it's really interesting. You've got me thinking now. So I suppose I appreciate what you've just shared, because I absolutely value all that. But what I actually don't do is sit there and think of, I always capture in my own gratitude journal or in my journal what I'm grateful for. But I often tell people in the moment, but what I don't do is reflect back on the week and think about the impact that, you know, somebody has had on me that week. And there's always so many, aren't there? There's so many fabulous moments and also some really tough moments, but some of the most smallest things could have made the biggest difference. So that you have definitely given me an action, and hopefully lots of listeners today as well, because how can that not be a great thing to do? That
Well, it's been a hot week. Someone went and got me a fan and a cold bottle of water.
brilliant.
And at that moment, it was the biggest impact that happened on my day because I was boiling.
Yes.
And then I went into a huge, wonderful conversation with someone later in the week. And we were talking about diversity and inclusion as we were part of an interview panel. And again, it was just something that was such a fruitful conversation. You go away and I just wanted to say, thank you for, having that, because I've now grown as a result of that touch point with you as that conversation.
Oh, that is a fabulous thing. And I definitely encourage as many people as possible to do what you've just described, because I think that's fabulous. So this is clearly showing who you are as a human being. All of this already is showing how much you value people, how they learn, how they can be the best selves. In terms of, obviously, and you've talked about coaching, when have you really seen it be brought to life in an organization, whether it's through building a coaching culture or the great conversations, because it is all about conversations at the end of the day. This is about, like you said, having a lasting impact. And that for us is what building a coaching culture is all about, making a difference, getting people to think differently and therefore doing something differently on the back of it. So where have you experienced things in your career where you would go, you know what, that was great? Kind of a best practice, if that's what you'd like to call it.
I've been really fortunate to have experienced it in what I would say in pockets, because I've worked for large organisations. So I worked for Public Health England.
Yeah.
Then I worked for the Red Cross, the biggest global brand that you can find. And now I'm within the NHS. So to kind of collectively say across the organisation when there's going to be pockets that aren't working, I would say in pockets it's been really great. So a real recent example, and I can give you that, where I don't think they knew they were doing a coaching conversation, was we're launching a new tool at Imperial around team development.
Yep.
And I went to see a group of nurses who were trying to tell me a bit about what they want to do with their teams. And one lady, her name was Shirley, and she spoke about all her frustrations about the system and everything else that was happening. We all know the story of the NHS, underfunded, all of those conversations. And she said, what I want to know is, will this help me motivate my team? And I said, when you mean motivate, what do you mean? She goes, and she interpreted that, she said, I've got people who have, a 2-hour journey to come into work. Of people, and she knew every person in that team. She knew every person who had a tough time and had a tough journey and had all of those. And when she was talking about motivation, she wasn't talking about, let's get you all geared up. She was like, well, how do I sustain them to be great at work? How do I help them? And that to me is, the takeaway that makes you smile, because that to me is the little trickle effect of someone having worked and not thought about, I may not be getting this from my kind of seniors, or, but just thinking about great people connections and going, you know what, I just want to make it better for you. And what do I do? So I love to see those nuggets, because then it gives me hope. I am not one of those people that likes to bash you over the head with the people survey stats and go, you're not performing over here, you're not performing over there. I think we need to walk the walk. Yeah. We need to be out there listening to our people in the space we are. Unfortunately, I would say a lot of people, directorates or HR, whatever you want to call them, get consumed by the day-to-day. Our workload is immense. Yeah. We have policies, we have all this stuff to update, and we get lost of not being amongst our people. So for me, it's really about, when you see those nuggets, amplify it. Don't tell them what great coaching is. Take that story and translate it. Get Shirley to come and speak to the people about what she does. Get those. And I've had real great examples when I worked in the Red Cross, people in retail, volunteers who showed people how they were getting on in a retail shop and all of that. And the joy is to bring those to life. And our role as professionals in this piece is not to say, this is how you do coaching, because I've got lots of books that tell me that. But it's really, our role is to say, people are doing it, they're role modeling it. You don't have to have a coaching qualification, you don't have to do all of these things, but listen to your role models. Our work is really about getting that story out there.
Yeah, that is absolutely, I love that so much in terms of, I mean, selling, I suppose, the way forward through storytelling is so powerful. When you leave somebody with that feeling and emotion, actually, if they've done that and the impact, I can do that too. So yeah, we need more Shirleys, because that's exactly what it's about. It isn't about, we talk here at Coaching Culture, it's not about everybody having a coaching qualification. It's about leaders and managers having the ability to have great quality conversations and have that, I suppose, desire to help their people be the best they can be. Because if they want that for them, they'll be it. It's that, isn't it? It's getting that encouragement.
Yeah. And I think, I was last week, I know this phrase, but it resonated much more with me last week. Especially when you're in an organisation like I am, which are responding organisations. And I was taking a moment of pause because I'm a natural responder. If you told me you had a problem, I would try to solve it. And that could be from trying to find you the best car insurance deal to the best flight you could. I'm that type of person that naturally wants to solve a problem. And the problem with people like me is we're so used to responding. And then last week I was talking to a group of people and someone said, the problem is, we don't listen to hear, we listen to respond. And I think that is such a pivotal thing. Sometimes you just need to be heard and people need to just listen. And I definitely think that skill of listening is dying out. It's like a dying art. We are so used to responding to everything. And when you're in a large organization like mine, which is a responder organization, it's even harder to understand why the culture isn't shifting, why the dial isn't shifting, because you're so used to solutionizing something. You're used to doing this. You're used to doing multitasking. I'm used to people having 100-hour week, and this is the NHS. So this is not something that I'm saying is everybody's life, but that's the life that you see. And it is actually, that's it, and at some moment, someone just wants you to not respond and they want you to hear them and really hear them. And I think that's such a pivotal area for me as well as an individual. It resonated so much in the moment when someone shared that with me. But I also thought, actually, I can see where our culture is going and how we may want to influence the hear bit rather than the respond.
And how does that work then in the NHS? Because obviously, we all, praise the NHS so much, but we also get the images of absolute, busy people working extra long hours, like you've just said, the 100-hour weeks, people are exhausted. How do you get that reflection time? How is that built into the working day when people are absolutely, I've even been to the NHS myself as a patient, and you just see people running around so busy doing fabulous work, but how do they get to take a breath?
Yeah, and I say this from my short experience in a trust, because I've only been at Imperial for 3 months, but also I was at the Red Cross, which again is a responding organisation. And I think that's our role. It's about showcasing that. It's about bringing that to life, like how you can do that. And in certain situations, people want to be heard, and for you to have listened and done something about that. I think we see a lot of these, you said, we did, all of that type of thing, the narrative. And these conversations, that we need to have. And it's not just about upskilling the manager. It's not just about, pulling all these tools and all the things that are in the people magic bag that I call it, that we pull out. But it's walking the walk. It's understanding the role of individuals. So there's a piece of work that we're just kicking off at Imperial, which is really building the persona of what a porter is, what a ward manager is, what a clinical director is. And that's the journey that we're taking, so that, for example, if you're on a ward, there's a couple of things as a manager that you need to nail. And part of that journey is things like, being fair. And we always talk about fairness because that's really important. And things like, these will seem like small things, but really navigating who's off, the annual leave rota, all of those things. And sometimes we've all done it. We may sign off someone who just comes in with us to the form, they come and have a little chat with us. We sign it off. It's not a favoritism in any which way, but because of their approach. Now, there might be someone who's introverted who only ever sends it to you via an email. And there is a level of fairness that comes in. And so one of the things that we're trying to work with them is build pathways for them, but also build easy accessible things. If they can't access health roster because the PC is so old, we get them a UR, a code, whatever it is, and then we can like a QR code, and that will help them get to health roster much quicker, all of those things. It means that they have an accessible tool that helps them in their day, rather than you going, you know what you need? You need 5 different courses on how to create a coaching culture.
Yes.
Because they're exhausted, they're tired, and what they might need is something quite easy. I'm not taking away from all the learning that is the great stuff that we do, but it's really balancing what that role is, the day-to-day of that role, and how you can fit in and really add value. And if that means that, you have to go to talk to estates and say, can you just turn off the heating because it's really hot and that room is still hot? It's all of those things. And when you're in the people space, your job is to help people. So don't pass it off on a colleague. Go in there and go, I will try and do my best. I will try. But if you don't hear, come back to me and I will follow up. I appreciate it gets me into lots of follow-up conversations. I do get that. But you have been in touch with that person. They are you have an opportunity to, one, showcase the amazingness of the people function, but also really be able to just get them something that they need, and it's all of that it has to be multi-layered. That journey that supporting people has to be multi-layered. It has to be that consideration of their transport journey. It has to be that consideration of that moment that when they're doing the night shift, there is no vending machine with a snack in it. These things are people, they're affecting you. I always say, if you were sat in an office with a leaky pipe, you would leave. Eventually you would leave because no one fixed the leaky pipe. And I'm not saying, we can take it all on, but there are elements that we need to do around environment. And, I've gone beyond saying that it's toxic cultures that people leave. It's toxic environments. It's bad environments, I
think,
it's all of those things.
What I'm hearing, Satnam, is how you are treating everybody as an individual and listening to them as an individual. And there's a real connection from you to every individual, even though I'm sure you can't get to speak to every individual. It's connections here and and recognizing that each individual needs different things, as opposed to one size fits all. You're all going on a course, crack on, and that makes it all better. You're not doing that. You're hearing what people need to make their workplace better and their environment. Yeah, which is you listening.
I think that's I think when it's I don't know if you remember, the subject you did the best in, the one that you really loved, you probably got the worst exam result in it because you were spending too busy revising chemistry, in my case. I think because I kind of early on thought I tried to learn to listen, and it's that probably is helping me on my own journey as well, because I'm a talker, and I just get me on a conversation and I'll be flowing forever. And sometimes you just kind of go, well, I haven't got that much energy, but you need to be able to navigate that, inspire people when you're in these roles as well, but also just really be able to say, can I do something about it? If I can, then I will. It's just that, as simple as that to me.
I can imagine you do get lots of follow-on calls then, because I can imagine you've probably gone in fixing so much. You must be very busy, Satnam. I can absolutely feel it when you're talking to me in a
I
great
think
way.
genuinely, yeah. I to be honest, I don't tend to get a huge amount, because you would have signposted them to someone else, or you would have said, have a look here.
Yeah.
So often what you get is a passing comment by someone going, oh, thanks, because you connected me along those journeys. And the only thing I can say recently that I thought really just made me think, oh, I made an impact, was we were interviewing, and I'm really great. I want to give good feedback to people when they come. If they've come that far after a shortlisting and all the rest, and they've turned up in person or virtual, I try to give them what I call a coaching session. So they will get their kind of feedback from me. And then I'll say, look, I'll give you half an hour in the 2 weeks since we had our last conversation, because that's the only time I can remember what we talked about. You can pick whatever you want to pick, whether that's a run through a question or whatever it is. I think it adds value. And someone just said it was it was really the best feedback they had. They sent me an email to say that's what they had. And it was a very honest conversation. Yeah. And they actually said, would I have got the job if you didn't get this amazing candidate that you feel you've got? And I said, no, I would have gone out to re-interview, because I don't think you were the right fit. And it was just that moment, which was like, I appreciate it's not the best of news, but I'm trying to tell you that you weren't like, I'm not going to give you bad feedback in the sense that I'm not telling you, oh, you were just close. That's not what I'm telling you. And they just said it was an eye-opener. And I think there is a level of our current culture. We need to have a real honest, I was about to say the honest conversation, but I've also seen training courses about honest conversations, which end up being difficult conversations and all the rest of that. But, it's about how you package that honesty. It's about saying, I don't think that would have happened, but these are where you can build up on. And it's that moment of being able to say to someone, this may not have worked, but what can we do, or what can you do in that journey of, how do you explore that and have that real kind of, it is honesty, ultimately that's what you want. And if you think back to the moments that we've had in our life that have an impact, from my dad saying when I had a perm on very long hair, going, don't think this is quite your thing. It was honest, brutal, and true. But, I was 16 and it didn't really need to land that quickly. My mum was the cushioner effect behind all of this.
Brilliant. From
those wonderful conversations we've had to that moment when your friend just goes, yeah, those jeans really don't do you any justice, all of those. We have valued that. We might not have valued it right in the moment, but we've valued that honesty. And I don't know about people who are listening, but I'm sure with you, Jo, you have one friend that you go, no one else is going to tell me something, but that friend will tell me definitely if I've got this right or wrong.
Definitely. And
we value it.
Yeah, we talk here, again, it's about honest feedback, because as long as people trust you, that they know you're doing this with the best intentions to help them, then you can say, I think, whatever you want, because it's how you say it and it's where it's coming from. And if it's coming from that great place, and we definitely encourage that here. We have to. And I think you're right. If you've got more people around you who are giving you that feedback, and you can also give the feedback, I think things just change, and things are so, I don't know. It's the whole radical candor thing, isn't it? It absolutely is so valuable. And it's certainly valuable, in all the organizations I speak to. If you can get a culture where better conversations, and I call them coaching conversations, but they're really conversations that are curious, asking questions and caring about people, and being able to give that great feedback and building trust, you are going places because you have got the people behind you, and it's all part of that, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's not that it works the reverse way as well.
Definitely.
It's not like we're not immune to these conversations. And recently, as I said, I've just moved into a trust. I've inherited a really great team, and I'm leading on these 2 work streams, which are sort of improving people management values and behaviours. And they're all consuming because I'm new and I'm learning. And one of my, very valued team members who's been there a long time, has really loads of experience, and just went, you don't really talk about my work. And I just went, well, have I not? And they went, no, you don't. And then I paused and I just thought, I'm going to let them finish and tell me what I haven't done. And not in a bad way, because we were having a very good one-to-one conversation. They said, we do all of this work. We don't think it necessarily fits in. My team does all of this work. It doesn't necessarily fit into the 2 areas that you're leading, but it fits across the people journey. And I just said, thank you. And I said, are you happy for me to chat, talk about this at the team meeting? Because you really opened up my eyes. And I might have been forgetting people in my own team whose work didn't fit into the ones that are in my sort of nearest and closest vision. They're in my peripheral vision. And I raised it. I said, thank you to Sharon. She's highlighted, this is what she's done. So she took away the kind of people vision, if you want to call it, and she added her work across. We've got a people plan, and she added her work across the different elements. And we did it in a really good exercise. And I said, do other teams want to take away and who are not reflected in the key ones that I'm leading?
Yep.
And think about, how do I advocate your work if I'm not advocating it? And, I had another person say, yeah, I felt that but we thought it was because you were new. And, whatever they gave me, but it was I was very open about it. And I'm very open about that. I will not get things right. I am not, I'm not deliberately trying to upset or hurt anyone or any of those things. I'm a human being and I won't get things right. I will have moments when I forget things because I can't remember it all. And all of that. So I think it's equally being open yourself. You have to be open to that feedback, that constructive feedback that says, you missed a deadline. What happened? You said you were going to get it to me on Friday. And, I'm one of those people that sometimes does procrastinate quite a long time. And if it's close of day is 11:59 at, 1 minute before midnight for me. And I appreciate that sometimes people have to say to me, I need it by 5 o'clock. And that's okay. But I think it's just sharing that notion of you have a 2-way dialogue. This is not just about me feeding to people. It's also people having openness with me and going, that didn't land. What can we do about it?
But how great, because you've not been at Imperial College for very long, how great that already they feel confident and comfortable to give you that direct and honest feedback. And you responded with thank you. Some people could have responded and explained all quickly why you'd missed them and got defensive, but you just went, thank you. Right. Okay. We need to think about this. You took that on, you owned it, which is, it's showing humility in a leader, which you will forever get more feedback. And because people feel confident to be able to do that with you, which is what we need in leadership.
Don't get me wrong, every part of my body and every bone in my body wanted to go, I will solutionize this, let me sort it out. And I thought, no, let's kind of listen and see if they can lead this piece of work. If I do an opener and they can take, because they've done a brilliant piece of work. They've kind of said, this is where I sit and these are things I do. And I went, fantastic. Do you want to run it as an exercise? And it's knowing when, there's that, we've all heard those analogies of rising in the balcony, then being on the dance floor. And I think it's almost being in the dance floor moment and going, how do I watch, how do I observe? How do I kind of listen in?
Yeah.
And that was the perfect moment for me to have a big team and they all then go, but I do this and I think it fits over there. First of all, made my chairing life a lot easier.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that meeting because I learned a lot. And I think it's just that when I do, as you know, I do a lot of work around diversity and
Yep.
inclusion because it's really important to me. And I remember thinking about a book I read, which is about, it's called Against White Feminism. And it's an amazing book. And it was about talking about having space.
Yep.
And I apply that in a real notion of everybody has a voice. Our role as leaders is to give space for that voice, is to create space.
Yeah.
And not to be that person's voice, but to create space for us to, as a leader, you have the opportunity to go, you can shadow me to a meeting. You can talk about your own paper. You don't need me. I don't need to put my name on another paper. Please, thank you very much. You can do it.
Brilliant.
You can be first off. I don't need to have my name on it. I'll only get questions that then I'll have to come back to you. You have the name, and I'll be the person that creates that space for you to have that voice, because every one of us has a voice, and it's really about embracing that and creating that space. And that is your job as a leader, is to, bring people into those platforms, give them those opportunities.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree. The role of leader is absolutely about that creating space. And I suppose when you talk about listening and the art of listening, that's about being able to hold the space as well, isn't it? To actually, you have a voice. Now it's my responsibility to listen to that voice and hear what you're saying. So I love that. Creating space and holding the space together. And in terms of your work in diversity and inclusion, I mean, it's such an important topic. And I get to speak to so many wonderful people about this topic. I love it. And for me, it's about that, putting your arms around everybody and having that true sense of belonging, where everybody feels safe to have their voice, because everybody's got a voice, and to be able to share their thoughts, their feelings in that safe space. Tell me a little bit more about your work in this area, because I know it's a true passion of yours, and it's one of the things that you really stand for.
I think for me, it's that's why I started to talk about who I am, because I have multiple labels. I have lots of labels, including mum, daughter, sister, all of those things. That makes me up. So I'm a firm believer of intersectionality as the biggest moment of creating, that kind of pool of learning around us. I love having different people around me. I just love different thinking, and I just value it so much. And I also think if you have that, it allows you to do work a lot quicker. As I said, I'm a self-confessed procrastinator, and I need someone to once in a while just go, can you just
do it?
Get on with it? Yeah. And that's okay. I think intersectionality is the biggest thing. So where I struggle with organizations is, we've got these targets and metrics to meet, and we will do that based on the 9 protected characteristics. We're getting that way. But it doesn't mean that you'll have diversity of thinking. It doesn't mean you'll have diversity of all sorts of experiences that you need to bring in. And I often say that, the work I do, and particularly I did more of this work at the Red Cross, less so at Imperial, but more of it is around just that feeling of how you feel when you walk in.
Yeah.
Just that feeling of what it connects with, what it resonates with. Do you see people that look like you? Will that help you be more connected?
Yeah.
All of that. And those, how do you feel? But also those of your the people that are listening today, there's some really moments of culture that you can do. You can really listen to that culture. And I say this in all the time, in all of the organizations I've been, and I didn't used to do this, but observation is one of your biggest gifts. Now, take your coaching, apply it, and observe. So if you've got a really good diversity strategy, observe who chairs it, observe all of those things.
Yeah.
and have the courage to feedback. So if you've got we all have a network, a committee, a group, something or another, and you might be in those. I want you, whoever's listening, I want people, and Jo, you and I can do this as well. When you walk into those rooms, observe how much time is taken up by people who already own the space. So we have this phrase in the NHS called the white peak of the NHS.
Yeah.
And observe that.
Yeah.
Observe that. Is that happening in every meeting? If so, you will very rarely get cultural shift.
Oh, that's gold dust. That is gold dust. And let me ask you then, you've just got something going in my mind, something that's playing on my mind at the moment. Observation in a remote way of working. So with numerous Zoom calls, Teams calls, not in the same room calls, that's more challenging, isn't it? I appreciate the people who are talking, so I get that. But actually observing and feeling and sensing the room is very different.
Of course. So there's things that you can really learn from. So think about the metric that you're trying to improve.
Yeah.
It might be disability figures, all of that you're trying, whatever. Observe in a meeting through Zoom or virtual, whatever it is, how many times that person gets interrupted who's representing that group. How many times are they pause in their presentation to have a conversation and marry it up? It might be you might get a straight balance. But in my findings to date, and this is not just in the organization work, it's the work I also do outside, is often the underrepresented voice is the voice that always gets questioned, is the voice that says, can you hurry up? Is the one that's been told to do that. Now, I want you, when you say it in isolation, it hurts. It's like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was doing that. You don't, because you do not, we as human beings want to be in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
We want to be in things that we are comfortable with.
Yeah.
So when we hear the uncomfortable, we try to be a disruptor of that uncomfortable because we don't like it. Think of, when you're, and I'm not taking it away, but if you've got a favorite spot in the house where you sit, it might be the sofa, whatever. Even if your own child is on it, I say this because that's probably the most person I love the most. I will want him to move.
Yeah.
Because that's my spot.
Yes.
And
it's the same in a meeting.
Yeah. So if you're when we're in our comfort zone, we feel we excel better. And so we don't interrupt the comfort. But when it's uncomfortable, we'll interrupt it. We might go and get a comfort break. We might go and do something else. We might suddenly go, I'm going to turn the camera off on my Zoom meeting because I had to, we might take a call. And that is pivotal in you going, this is what I noticed when Jo was talking. Satnam, you were walking around. You got up. You took your camera off. You have to have a degree of faith and honesty and to have that conversation. But that's what I would say. When you want cultural shift, go and observe those meetings. Go and observe the people that say, but I do listen. And they go, and then nobody puts their hand up in a staff meeting to tell me. That's because you've alienated the whole population.
I've been told recently when there's a difficult discussion happening, I cough. I didn't realise. I do. And now all I can hear is this giant cough and I can feel it and I'm wanting to suppress it. And it's not meaning me to be disruptive, but I can feel that physical sensation. That's my response. And I'm hoping it's not because I'm being, disruptive. It's because I can feel that sense of discomfort.
But it's all of those things. And sometimes I feel that in the people space, we spend hours writing the policy, writing the diversity strategy, and they all have a good place. And I'm not knocking them, and I'm not knocking my people professionals. And, you and I have these conversations a lot of time. But the nugget is observation. The nugget is walking in someone else's shoes. I cannot tell you how valuable that is. I went into the NHS. I want to do a ward round because most of the people I serve are on wards, and if I don't do that in my space, I'm the fool, because I'm building something for someone who's going, what is this? And so there is an element of being able to be on site, absorb, all of that, because you will then know where your strategy needs to be. You will then know there is an element of challenge you need to bring.
Yeah.
You need to be able to go, let me pause you there. Let me tell you, this is what I'm experiencing. This may never have been your intent, but the impact it's having is this. And that's the thing. But it's tread bravely, tread carefully, all of those words that go with it.
Wow, that is gold dust. And I'm sure you've given so much today, Satnam. I mean, thinking people, hearing what you've said today from the very start of our conversation in terms of those moments of reflection, the gratitude, the listening being a dying art, and actually about as leaders, our role is to create the space for people to have a voice. But actually, if there's one thing I've heard very loud and clear, it's just now, it's actually the power of observation, because that's where your challenges are, and really observe. And I suppose and listen to what's going on. And that's where you'll see and feel where the areas of opportunity are to start making a difference and challenging people, having those honest conversations and feedback. And wow, you have just absolutely bottled up so many experiences and shared stories about what people need to be doing to make a difference in the really actionable things as well. Things that people can go, people may be sat here listening going, I actually haven't been out and observed XYZ for ages. I haven't actually thanked anybody for the difference they've made to me since time began, or whatever. There's some real practical ideas that have come across today, Satnam. I really appreciate that. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Go on. Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, of course. I think, the work we do isn't the kind of cardiac surgery. And I'm saying that because someone the other day apologized for having spent time in cardiac surgery and was late from a meeting. I was blown away. I was hoping they'd stitch up the patient as well and everything. I was like, if there's ever an excuse, that's got to be the best one. But, for me, I think it's just we put too much emphasis on the science of our work. We put too much emphasis because, we have to talk about return on investment. We put too much on that. And a lot of the things that I apply are things that I've gone out and learned. And so the thing about observation came from me because years ago, I used to try and meditate. And it all started when someone said to me, what, you do yoga, in a really surprised way, like, God, you're still not calm, and it was almost that moment. Brilliant. And I was talking to a yoga teacher who I love and cherish, and she said, well, why do you have to meditate that way? Why don't you do moving meditation? And I thought, what the hell is moving meditation?
Brilliant.
And it was all about observation. So if you are a struggler and I'm a struggler, even if it's 1 minute, set your phone on a minute timer and just go, for that minute, I'm going to look out my window, or I'm going to go and do something else, or I'm going to go and do that. Do that. And if you're like me, just don't multitask for that 1 minute. It's really difficult. I was saying to someone the other day, even when I'm brushing my teeth, I am sorting out my bag. So I'm like walking around with the toothbrush in my mouth. I'm a natural born multitasker. I don't know where it came from, but that's me. And I'm not going to change overnight. So sometimes I'll just if I remember I'm doing too much, I'll just go, today I'm just going to brush my teeth. I'm not going to move around. And it's really difficult. Like, I genuinely find it really difficult to stand there and just brush my teeth and not do something else. So apply the most simple things that are fun to you, that make you love yourself in that fun way, and go, this is my irk and this is how I'll do it. And that will flow into the way you work. It really will.
Oh, that is great. Yeah, I'm a bit of a multitasker. I like doing LinkedIn posts while I'm putting my makeup on. Doing my hair, LinkedIn posts. I can do all of this. Yeah. Oh, Satnam, thank you so much for your conversation today. Is there anything else you'd love to share? Although I think we could talk for hours about the importance of people and getting to know people. And it isn't science or rocket science. It's here, isn't it? And it's caring for people, and it's having an interest and a curiosity and wanting people to be the best they can be. So it's actually, like you said, it's listening, it's observing, it's creating the space to give people a voice. It's all of that.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things that I have a coach, and one of the things my coach and I talk about a lot is, and we use words like ego and all of those things that come into it. But it's like, I tend to trip up when I go against my own grain, when I go against the way I should do something, you know, which naturally, like your sixth sense, whatever you want to call it. I'm not one for massive, like, you know, I don't tend to box things up for this is the theory behind that. That's the theory behind that. But what I'd like to say, just, you know, just be yourself. And I know we use words like authentic, all of that. Forget those. Just be yourself, and, you know, allow yourself to kind of feel what you would want someone to feel. Allow yourself to kind of go, this is the journey I want to take. And that is probably I think for me has been the golden nugget into the journey I do. Unashamedly, I've been going to roles when I have now said, and I think more so when I was at the Red Cross, and then I walked into Imperial to take on this role. It's not about not taking on challenges, but I do not want to lose myself. I've been there. We've all done it. We've all been in that corporate environment when we no longer are ourselves. We can't even, reflect who we are. So own yourself, be yourself, and it will be something that is a journey that you take with yourself, because we're always evolving. But it will help. It will help because you know what you don't like. You know the things that irk you. And there's got to be someone else like that out there for you as well. You know, it's that type of thing. Go into these work opportunities and those things about, say, the impact it had on you. You know, you chaired an amazing meeting. Someone listened to you. Write them a thank you note saying, you had a great impact on me. You left a lasting impression. Thank you. Do that. And when something doesn't work, go, it didn't really resonate with me. Did I not listen, or did you not? Were we talking cross purposes? I think all of those words about growth and flourish and thrive, it's use those language to really resonate, connect with people.
Oh, unashamedly be yourself. That is fabulous. And I know we share the definition for us of a coaching culture is a place where authentic, so we do use the word authentic leaders and managers help people to grow, thrive and perform through effective conversations, honest feedback underpinned by trust. That is it. And that is everything that you've just been describing, isn't it? Unashamedly be yourself and help others to grow and perform and thrive and flourish. All the great words. Yeah. Satnam, thank you so much. How can people contact you if they want to? And it sounds like you're so busy, but how can they at least connect with you and follow you, because you've got so much great work going on?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm normally proactive on LinkedIn. So do just connect me on that. It's Satnam Sagoo. I think it's really easy to find me. So yeah, that would probably be the best way.
Thanks. And I can absolutely hear and see and feel the Outstanding Contribution Services Award right here in this conversation. I am so pleased that I sat there in the audience going, wow, I've got to speak to this person. And then somehow we ended up on that same panel. And I'm absolutely thrilled that you've joined us at Coaching Culture today, Satnam. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for having me, Jo.
Thank you. And if you do want to hear more fabulous guests like Satnam, please do tune in for more Coaching Culture podcasts. Thank you very much.